Thanks to the COVID lockdowns, there's been a nationwide shortage of labor. And this is particularly true in the resort, timeshare, or hospitality industry, as people have not readily returned to work. But there is one company that will be featured in today's presentation who's managed to find solutions and some cases even grow its on-site team. And today we'll learn more about what the ongoing approach is as we meet and greet Nigel Lobo. I am Sharon Scott Wilson, and welcome to Resort Trades Learning Center for professionals doing business in the timeshare vacation hospitality industry. And today we're delighted to have Nigel Lobo, who is COO of Grand Pacific Resorts in California.
Thank you so much, Sharon. It's my pleasure being here today.
Well, thank you. We were very intrigued by your article, actually. It appeared in the January 2022 edition of Resort Trades. It was called The Great Resignation. And of course, we have it available online. I think Carrie is going to go ahead and put a link to it, to our website, which features the article. But today, I'm interested in hearing more about what your new initiatives are, or ongoing initiatives with regard to human resources.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sharon. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. As you mentioned, I'm Nigel Lobo. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Grand Pacific Resorts, based here in Carlsbad, California. Grand Pacific currently manages 24 resorts on the west coast of the United States and Hawaii. And we proudly serve close to 100,000 timeshare owner families. So what I'd love to do is, before we jump into this presentation, I wanted to kind of take a step back and share with you the why at Grand Pacific Resorts. There are a lot of companies that focus very heavily on what they do and how they do things. At Grand Pacific, the heart of what we do is around our why. And our why is enriching lives by creating experiences worth sharing. And it's not just enriching the lives of our timeshare owners and guests, but equally important, it's enriching the lives of our valued associates that are part of our Grand Pacific family. And tied to our core purpose, or our why, is our values. And several years ago, we pulled together, what's at the core? What's the core values within Grand Pacific that makes us who we are? And we came up with this acronym called Be Epic, which was very apropos. And Be Epic is, it's all about balance, empowerment, enthusiasm, passion, integrity, and consistency. We seek out talent that have these values. And at times we have to release folks from our family, our Grand Pacific family, that don't exhibit these values. But that really becomes our glue. We hire against them, and we also have reward and recognition programs that are tied to our values. So I just thought I'd start by, anchoring the discussion around the importance of having a why as a company, and then also integrating the values of the organization around that core purpose. So jumping into the topic of the day, which is, and I would say for the future, it's the Great Resignation, and I changed it to the War for Talent. And I wanted us to take a step back, and as we looked at the pandemic as it has evolved since 2020, when we first were told about the virus back in the beginning of 2020, everybody was in denial. They were like, oh, there are more deaths from flu than the coronavirus. And then suddenly, bam, you know, everybody had hit us and everybody was scrambling. And one of the most unimaginable things occurred in my lifetime, and that is having to shut down a resort, having to shut down our resorts temporarily because of the virus. And the first thing that went through our minds, and through my mind in particular, was how are we going to take care of our associates that we had to put on this temporary leave of absence? So we retained our entire people and culture team, and we entrusted them to reach out to our associates and help them fill out their unemployment applications. I'm not sure if any of you have filled out an unemployment application. I went through the process to see how complex it was, and it's definitely not for the faint of heart. It's pretty complicated. So we wanted to hold their hands and help them with that process. And as part of that process, we authorized our people and culture team to inquire about how were they doing financially while they were waiting for the unemployment checks. So we wanted, David Brown, the owner of the company, and I were very concerned about, will they have food on the table? Are they going to be okay? So we authorized them to send out online grocery gift cards to take care of them, to make sure that they would be all right. And then we did a follow-up with them subsequently and sent out more gift cards to them as well, just to help them tide over. I will tell you that heartwarming outreach paid dividend many times over, because when we then reopened our resorts, while technically they could have made more money by staying at home and collecting unemployment and getting the handout checks from the government, over 90% of them all came back to work and be with us and be a part of this journey with us.
That's amazing. It really is, because you addressed their greatest fears.
Absolutely, Sharon. And I always tell the team, it's about capturing our associates' hearts. We want to make sure that they're not in this mindset of, oh, we're just in it for a paycheck. They're part of a larger team and family where we take care of them, and we want to make sure that they have an enriched work experience as well. So that was 2020, 2021, and as we get into 2022, I wanted to provide some further insights into how at Grand Pacific we're approaching the labor challenges that seem to exist out there. We've heard with the Great Resignation that there were over 11.4 million Americans that decided, this is it, I'm going to go and do something different. And they're not going to come back to the same job they had. The last time I checked, which was a couple of weeks ago, there were close to 1.8 million hospitality jobs that are still sitting open that need to be filled. And that's not just in timeshare. So as I look at that, within Grand Pacific, we have our milestones that we develop each year in terms of what we focus on. And our milestones for 2022 is very similar. The categories fall into three buckets. It's around people, service, and success. What I thought I'd do today is maybe share a few of the items under the people piece on the milestones. Number one piece is it's about attracting talent. And we boiled it down into three key positions. It's our room attendants, maintenance, and our front desk associates. And it's how do we source applications. And Sharon, one of the things that we've put into our team's mind is we have to think blue ocean strategy. And this is against a red ocean strategy. In the red ocean, it's all about a zero-sum game. What I get, you don't get, and we're all out there hunting for the same labor. In a blue ocean, you got to think differently. It's how you present your organization. How do you make it more attractive to a potential team member to want to come and join us? That's a blue ocean type of mindset and thinking where you now could maybe reach maybe talent pools that may not have thought about joining your organization, but now get very interested. And, I attended an HR and hospitality conference in November of last year. It was right here at the Dell in San Diego. And I want to tell you, everybody came to the conference expecting to hear great solutions, but there weren't any. It's not like there's a silver bullet out there. But the one piece that I picked up on was the need to focus on career pathing. So you don't just go out there recruiting or trying to attract talent for a specific position, but you're providing this promise of a future career. So we'll be hearing more about that in this presentation. The second part to it is around retention. Once you bring these new associates on board, what are you doing to nurture them, to develop them? And that's we have all our associate development. Docebo is our online learning management platform. The LMS is learning management system. And then we have our leadership development programs and other leadership programs that I'll be talking to you about today. And then last but not the least, it's our benefits and recognition that also drives that retention to get our team members to want to stay. So it's nurturing them through, we have a Be Epic recognition program, and it's, a way for our timeshare owners and guests, as well as associates, peer-to-peer recognition, where they fill out a card and they recognize the specific value on the Be Epic, whether it's balance, empowerment, enthusiasm, passion, integrity, or consistency. They can pick a value, fill it out, and then there's a reward that goes to the associate with that recognition. Every month, there are about 5 to 10 of those cards that come to me, and then I write a handwritten note to that associate and send it to them with a gift card to their home address, just thanking them for being epic at Grand Pacific. And then, of course, we also focus on the Be Epic, the associate benefits. That's also important as part of their journey. So that's really the backdrop of our people piece and the people service success. Okay, coming to the war for talent. You hear so much about, it's all about retention, and we should have retention. I look at it through the lens of slowing down the urgency of the hiring process. The more you drive retention and you get your team members to stay on and not up and leave, the less of a crisis that you have in trying to go out and find new talent and the likes. So we all know, well, when you talk about retention, easier said than done, right? Well, what drives retention? And we all know that it's an engaged associate tends to want to stay and be a part of the organization for the long haul. So what is an engaged associate? Everybody says, most associates are disengaged, and that's the reason why they leave. Well, I pulled up, when you talk about what is an engaged associate, it's an associate who works with passion and feels this profound connection with the organization. So you go, okay, Nigel, we get it, but how do we get to that level of engagement with our associates? And how important is that to preserve that retention? So I'm always reminded that people join organizations, they join companies, but eventually they'll end up quitting supervisors and managers, because that drives the importance of leadership. What are we doing as leaders to truly nurture our associates so that they stay with us and they don't look elsewhere and go elsewhere while they're on their path with us? So what I wanted to share with you today was Gallup, who does tremendous amounts of surveys, and they're always surveying, especially associates, on what makes associates want to be satisfied and loyal and the likes. But there was a very interesting question that Gallup asked, and it says, based upon all of the survey data, what do followers truly look for in their leaders to drive that engagement that I just talked about? And it's really interesting. They boiled it down into 4 basic needs or categories. And I wanted to share them with you. The first was compassion. They wanted to make sure that their leaders had a very high level of compassion that was integrated into the job's expectations as well. Second was trust. Do I trust my leader? Does my leader have my back? The third is stability. Does my leader exude stability within his leadership or her leadership style, or stability within the organization? And last but not the least, does my leader inspire hope? And I sat back, and as I reflected on these 4 categories, I looked at it through the lens of the pandemic and how important and how critical these 4 basic needs are today more than ever before, where associates, while they have more questions than answers around the pandemic and what's occurring and what's happening on the business side, they want to make sure that their leader that's with them is showcasing a fair level of compassion, trust, stability, and inspiring hope with them. And that's really the key to the war for talent. I also wanted to showcase, and I've shared this with all of our leaders within our company, is when it comes to leadership, what is that really all about? And it's the ability to foster that environment for our associates that inspires them to create sustainable growth. So you go, okay, I get it, but what exactly that's all about? So as you scale an organization, Grand Pacific is really on this growth path where we are getting new resorts. As we continue to scale, it's not just scaling the organization with new resorts, but it's scaling the organization's capacity for caring. It's our capacity for influence with our team members so that they want to come to work each day and they want to do great things. So, one of the things I share with my team is my personal vision for our team is when we are successful as leaders, is when our associates want to tap dance to work each day. And they can't wait to get to work. And, it's tough work. It's long hours of work. But then at the end of the day, when they're driving home, when they're going home, they go, oh my gosh, that was hard work, but boy, I enjoyed being there and how I was treated and how I was recognized and how I felt valued. Excuse me, that's the core part of leadership in terms of how do you engender the organization's capacity for caring and influence around those areas. So to kind of bring a little visual to what I just talked about is we have this ladder, and we call it the ladder as it relates to our associates. And the first threshold on this ladder is, as a leader, how are you building trust with your associates? And then after you build that trust and continue to build it, it's an ongoing piece. Now you start to build that loyalty within them. They go, wow, I trust my leader who's compassionate, who's stable, who inspires hope. Now I'm loyal. And then what we want with that loyalty is the advocacy. We are associates. We want them to be the mouthpiece, to go after and get new associates. And this truly encapsulates the blue ocean thinking that we are trying to create within Grand Pacific Resorts. All right, so bring it home. At Grand Pacific, we really believe that our culture is really the glue. This enriching lives by creating experiences worth sharing. We keep reminding our team that this enrichment is how do we enrich the lives of our associates, especially during these pandemic times. And you see in the article that you reference, Sharon, we take those extra steps as part of the work environment of helping our associates with some extra touches. For our room attendants, we've got shoes for crews, where we provide them with shoes. We've got ways in which, while they're cleaning the rooms, we give them refreshments, and we also provide them with a meal on the weekends. So we try to make sure that it's really an enriching environment where they feel the love and they feel that they're part of a family as well. As part of that enrichment, we want to make sure that those associates then become our best advocates. And that also drives retention with them. And then we also want to make sure that that enrichment translates into career pathing, that they're not just there for their job, but they're working hard on their careers as well. They want to be stronger for the future, so that as they put in their long hours, they're also going to put in some hours to help develop their skills for their future. They say most of the time, folks, when they're very good as line level associates, they'll end up getting promoted. And then all of a sudden, people look at them and say, well, they're not doing so well as a supervisor. What happened? And I go, take a look in the mirror. What did you do to help nourish them while they were in their line level position with skills to be effective as a supervisor? Nothing in leadership is inborn or gifted. Everything in leadership and supervision is all about learning. The best leaders today will tell you that they've learned everything on their journey. So we create career pathing as a competitive advantage. We want to make sure that we keep the nurturing of our associates with their career path as part of that process. So the other key piece is promoting from within. As part of that career development, we want to give our internal associates an opportunity to step up. There is a distinct advantage to that, because now you're able to harness our unique culture that we have and not have to run the risk of having an associate from the outside bring in the culture and then have to try to get them to ingrain into our culture as well. And we do get a lot of great talent from the outside as well, but there's a special place on promoting associates from within. So what we do to help with that development and promotions from within, we have our learning and development key programs that we have as a live and thriving part of Grand Pacific. The first one is our housekeeping enrichment program. We pay extra special attention to our room attendants, because that's probably one of the hardest, most demanding jobs within our company. In the world of sales, they say nothing ever happens until you sell something. In my world, in our world, nothing ever happens until you're able to get those rooms cleaned on time, so that next timeshare owner or guest can check in and have a very enriching experience. So we paid very close attention to how could we enrich the journey for our room attendants. And that's what that housekeeping enrichment program is, where we provide them with absolute training on 3 key areas: English as a spoken language, computer skills, and financial skills. And that's very, very enriching to them. Then we also have a leadership enrichment program series for all of our supervisors and above. And that's in partnership with a local community college. We do it with MiraCosta out here. And that's been working great. We've gone through several cohorts of that program with some very meaningful training to help build their development into the future. And then we also have our general manager program. We call it our Be Epic Trailblazer program. And that's where we develop future general managers within our company. So as we continue to grow as an organization, we now are nurturing our future leadership with all of the skills that they need to really blossom as a general manager within our organization. And then last but not the least, within our online learning platform called Docebo, Brian Boyd, our Director of Learning and Development, and Elaine Place, they've created a phenomenal online learning catalog that curates wonderful learning opportunities for our teams, where they can enrich themselves with online learning, and everything is trackable. So even as part of a performance management conversation, if there's an opportunity to enhance a specific skill, they can go to a specific module within Docebo and enhance that and feel smarter and stronger. So moving on to this slide, I think this truly encapsulates everything that I've been talking about as it relates to recruitment and retention. And retention in particular, it's all about capturing our associates' hearts. When they join us, we want them as part of our family. We want to nurture them. We want to have them with us for the long haul as well. So in conclusion, I wanted to kind of just end by just sharing some of the key learnings and the key pieces that we continue to focus on within Grand Pacific. Number one, it's retention versus recruitment. We cannot afford to constantly be just looking at how many requisitions we have opened for X amount of positions, but it's what are we doing with the folks that we have, with our team members? What are we doing when we do recruit somebody with our onboarding programs to upskill them, to make sure that they feel really comfortable in their jobs? From a career pathing as well, we are no longer just hiring room attendants. We are hiring future executive housekeepers. We are no longer hiring front desk associates. We are hiring front office managers and future general managers. We are no longer hiring maintenance associates. We are hiring future maintenance supervisors and maintenance managers and directors of maintenance at our resorts. So that career pathing is so critical to the long journey that we want to really enrich with all of our associates. And all of that comes with human capital. It's investing in your associates. If you noticed, throughout my presentation, I did not highlight anything about wages or pay scales, because that's a given. You have to be competitive within your wage rate. You want to make sure that when your associates look at what you're compensating them, that they don't feel that they are being undercompensated, or alternatively, they're not widely overcompensated. I don't think any associate is ever going to say, you're paying me too much, right? Everybody would always, but they always are paying attention to, is this really a fair wage? And how does this wage that I'm getting integrate with all of the other benefits and all of the great things that come to me as an associate? So now the term that's out there, it's HCM, Human Capital Management. It's just as we invest in technology and we invest in infrastructure, a key investment today is investing in our associates. It's making sure that we allocate enough dollars to enrich their timeline with us, helping build their journey with us, and then allowing them to be our mouthpiece to bring in new talent and help us grow as a company. And then last but not the least, it's culture and leadership. I know as I went through this presentation, I did have a lot of insights around the importance of leadership and culture. And I can tell you that I cannot underscore that enough, because when you talk about retention, when you talk about nurturing, you have to have a leader that has a big heart, a leader that's liked, a leader that's approachable, that people want to be around. Because in the absence of that, the teams are going to be disengaged. They're going to be going through the motions. They're going to be looking for other opportunities. And I would say the future looks really bright despite the pandemic, Sharon. I will tell you that, our timeshare owners and guests, I think they are into this pandemic fatigue. They are going, I'm going to travel. I want to travel. I want to get out there, and we want to be out there. And for our associates, we want to make sure that they feel safe and comfortable. And we have all the safety protocols for our timeshare owners and guests, but also for our associates, and that they feel that sense of belonging and recognition for the long haul.
Well, I have one question for you, Nigel. I wondered if, do you ever get any pushback from your team members who say, oh, we're only training and empowering these people to go to other organizations who might be able to afford to pay more, or do you worry about competition for them in that respect?
Yes, I've heard that, and my response has and has always been, and I will say that this is not something I've come up with, but I've shamelessly stolen it from other folks, where they say, when you hear those concerns, oh my gosh, I'm going to spend all this money on these associates, and then is this money down the drain because then they leave and they go elsewhere? And I go, wait a minute, what if you did not train them and they decided to stay?
Yeah, I remember reading that in your article. I thought that was very clever.
Yeah. Thank you for asking that, Sharon.
Surely. Well, I believe this wraps up our today's presentation, and I have already discussed with Nigel that we will have him or members of his team back for other articles and resort trades, as well as presentations on of this sort. And thank you, Nigel. This takes a lot of preparation and work on your part, and we really do appreciate it. And I'm sure our listeners will appreciate it too. As we said, we will be posting this on YouTube later and distributing it through our social media so we can reach more people with what I think is an extremely important message. So
awesome.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you, Sharon, because of all that you do and what Resort Trades does, not just for our timeshare industry in particular, but for the hospitality industry in general. I admire you for how you so importantly bring out these great topics that are important to everybody and allow us to disseminate and share all of our learnings as well. So my deepest thanks to you as well.
Well, thank you. Appreciate